Hey everybody. So today we're continuing waterproofing our Axial SCX 10s. What we're working on today is the gear cases, the front diff, the rear diff, and the transmission. Now we're working on our Jeep today. We're going to be pulling out the rear differential, and I'll show you what I do for keeping the water out and keeping it alive. We're just going to be doing the rear diff. The transmission and the front differential are exactly the same procedure, if you will. And so let's get started. Okay, the first thing we want to do is remove the wheels and tires from our differential. We're going to take the differential out. Not really a differential on these, it's pretty much locked. The solid center section in this. We had a slight fail on the waterproofing of our winch controller from our last video when the plastic dip dried that we put it on it. The wireless function of the winch stopped working. So I'm guessing that the radio signal will not work through the plastic dip. So we're going to have to do something a little bit different with that. There's a product out there that we're going to give a try called Never Wet, and we're going to get some of that and see how that functions, but that'll be another video, because we still have the componentry from our night vision system that we're going to need to waterproof as well. So maybe we'll use some of that Never Wet on that as kind of an experiment. Rear differential comes out fairly easily. Basically a 3-link setup. The shocks in the lower links are held on in the same place, and then you have your center link for your third link. You just take all the hardware out of that, it comes right off. The propeller shaft, drive shaft on these are a sliding splined type. So it'll come off fairly easily. This is a good little project to be doing inside today. It's Sunday, December 8th, and the temperature this morning outside was 2 degrees below zero. And we've had 2 snowstorms pass through this week, and got a combined total of about 7 to 9 inches on the ground outside. So it's pretty good thing to be able to work inside on a project here. Okay, so we've got our differential out. Okay. Alright, now we'll take our diff apart Get all the proper things. Remove the propeller shaft. Propeller shaft has a pin that goes through and it slides off. Our wheel hexes are held on by a set screw, and there's a pin that locates the hex on the shaft. They come out. Okay, now each end of the differential case is held on by one of these sleeves. Two screws hold the sleeve on. We'll take those screws out. Sleeves slide off. Okay, when the sleeves slide off, that reveals our outer bearing on that propeller shaft, which actually won't come out until we separate the halves. So take the sleeve off on the other side. Of course, once the Jeep kit was ready to run, so all this here was pre-assembled at the factory. So we didn't send that. Okay, so now we have this upper mount for our third link. Take it off. There are all the components available for these to actually go to a 4-link setup in the front and the rear. It does come with a 3-link. I think the other kit I believe I built with a 3-link, and we'll start off with that, but it may be something that we do change and upgrade as we go along. Okay, take some screws out of that. Okay, that link will come off, leaving our case. Okay, actually there's a flap around here. That leaves just 2 screws in the bottom, here and here. I don't know how well you can see those, here and here. Take those off. There's nuts on this side. There are nuts those thread into, so make sure you don't lose those. Should get one of those little power drivers for doing this. It'll be a lot easier. Okay, so now we can take our diff half cover off, and there's our differential. Well, like I say, there's our ring and pinion. It's there's no differential gears in there. It is a locked assembly. So we'll take and remove the 2 drive shafts. They come right out with the bearings, and we'll remove our ring gear center assembly, and we can push out our pinion gear in the center. Our metal gears in the center of these, and there's our pinion bearing. Focus in the pinion bearing up in the front, and there's our axle bearings. on the two sides. Now these bearings are actually sealed, which is good, but we're going to do a little bit extra to ensure that the water doesn't get in there, or if the water does get in, it's not going to harm anything. What we have here is multi-purpose marine grease. There's a number of different brands on the market that you can buy. I don't think they're really that much different. Marine grease is marine grease. It's very water resilient. What we're going to do, pack some down in there around our pinion bearing. Get that nice and full of grease. Then we're going to take and we're going to put our pinion back in, squishing it down into the grease. So that what that will do is that will provide a barrier, a moisture barrier of any water coming in around the shaft or the bearing in the housing and entering our differential. So then we're going to take some more grease and we're going to kind of put a bunch of it in that cavity. I think you kind of see where we're going with this. Where the grease is, if the grease is there first, it's very resistant to water. Okay, so we'll put grease everywhere in there. We can drop our ring gear assembly back into the grease. We'll continue to pack this unit with our marine grease. Like I say, this grease is going to do two things. It's going to resist any moisture that should enter this assembly, and it will actually lubricate all the componentry. There's a little bit of grease here from the factory. I didn't worry about cleaning that off. It's more than compatible with the marine grease. Okay, so we'll get some all around here, and like I say, if the grease is there first, the moisture won't bother as much. Okay, good packing of that around there. Okay, we'll reinstall our axles. Put those back in. Okay. Now, one thing I do now is, as you can see, our axle housing is going to end right there with the bearing out there. So there's kind of a little bit of a void there. So what we're going to do is we're going to put another bunch of grease right along here, back it in under our axle, build up on the outside, just like so. So we've just created another barrier point to resist moisture entering the differential. And with marine grease, I mean, it actually does have somewhat of a sealing property, so it's a good thing. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. We'll take our axle housing, okay. Sorry, grease all over my fingers again. So we'll take our axial housing, our top housing, and what we're going to do in the same area, we're going to put a little grease right here. And put a little grease right here. Okay, in the two same spots. So when this clamshell is together, let's see, make sure we put this on the right way, which is this way. Okay. Okay. Two halves together. Okay, we can put our two lower bolts back in, and then we'll hold that in. So as you can see, it's very, very simple to do this. If I can get the nut to start. There's the one. This one doesn't want to start. There we go. Okay, so those two parts are snugged up. Grease there, and our axles are in. Okay, so go ahead and put our top link back on. Like so. There. We get our other two screws that go into through our center housing into the top link. Okay, got the other two screws to go back in up here. Just as a side note, when you're doing this, when you get to your front differential, where these screws go on the rear diff housing, the front diff has the same holes in it, but it doesn't have the link to go in it, so the two holes are open. So what you do is you take, your silicone of whatever type and actually put it in those two holes, because those holes are open right into the diff housing. So water will pretty much, just instantly go right in those, which is what you don't want. Now, the other thing I do is I put a little bit of grease here around our pinion bearing. Like I said, this bearing is sealed, but you know what? It doesn't hurt to have a little bit extra of this on there. Okay, we need to line up the hole through here. We'll put our pin back in. Now the one thing that we're going to put on our pin, because we don't want this pin loosening up, so we're going to put a little bit of purple Loctite on our pin. Hopefully you can see that. Purple Loctite is for small fasteners and it's service removable. So we can put that back in, and we won't have to worry about our propeller shaft coming off. Grease all over everything here, keep cleaned up. So there we have it. Now what we'll do, we'll put our end caps back on, and what we'll do is we'll put some marine grease around our bearing. And like I said before, these bearings are sealed, so this is just a little added protection, you know, because sometimes these things are sealed against, you know, dirt and so, stuff like that, but they're not really that great a seal against moisture. Okay, take that, put our 2 screws back in, and the front differential is a little bit different because it does have the steering components on it, but it's essentially the same exact procedure as is the transmission. Just take it out. It's a 3-gear transmission. Take it out and basically just pack the grease in there the same way around all the, you know, all the componentry that you want to protect. Now, even though you've done this, probably important to note that you're going to want to have, you know, some kind of a maintenance regimen with this. I mean, if you take it out, you do a trail run with one of your trucks, you know, and it's subjected to the elements, what you might want to do afterwards is, you know, they're not going together here for some reason. Oh, our axle's not in the way. Okay, so we installed our axle. That doesn't go there. Okay, there we go. Like I was saying, you want to have a, you know, a maintenance regimen. After you've had, you know, you've run your truck, subjected it to a lot of moisture or, you know, mud or grime or whatever, you know what? Take the time, take it apart, clean it all up, and, you know, repack your stuff with all this grease. And after you get all the little, you know, gritties and whatever out of it that will accumulate here and there and everywhere, and you get a long service life out of your stuff that way. That's kind of an important thing, I think. You know, it's good to protect your stuff, but if you just, you know, do this the one time and you never do any more with it, you're probably still going to have, you know, failures of some sort. So here we go. We put this in. Put that back on that pin. I don't know if you saw that. I can put our pin back in. Now we'll put this on there for our drive hex. Tighten up the set screw. Okay. Yes, our daytime high today, when we went out earlier, early afternoon, it got up to about 13 degrees outside, so not a very nice day outside, so it's a great day to be in messing with this stuff inside. Okay, so there you have it. There's our rear differential assembly, lubricated, waterproofed or at least extremely water resistant. So now we'll just reinstall this back of the truck, and we'll do the same thing to our front differential and our center transmission. Okay, and there you have it. Our rear differential is all back installed in our truck. We've removed our 3-gear transmission and our front differential, and have done the same thing to both those components. So that, coupled with our, waterproofed electronics, and we're pretty much ready to run the elements. We have to, like I say, we're going to try the Never Wet on our control board for our winch, which is mounted on this vehicle now. We did mount our winch today. And we have to install our night vision system, which will give us lighting. The only thing that we did do when we put it back together, of course, we installed our Metal Gear high torque steering servo that we upgraded it, and we also did install an aluminum servo arm and the Axial aluminum steering link kit, and we put those in to replace the stock plastic link, which is kind of flexible and flimsy. So I think that's the one place where a little improvement was a good thing, but the rest of the truck is actually pretty much ready to go. I don't think we're going to change an awful lot more on that. So let's get you up here. I have kind of a makeshift camera stand here. Okay, so thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for subscribing. It's all appreciated. This will kind of wrap up this end of it. In our next up, we'll see what we can do with the Never Wet, and we'll start to install our lighting system in these two trucks. This is kind of where the real fun starts. So, until the next time, take it easy.